What's up, guys? Welcome to Cage High Connor. Connor. I think I finally cracked the code on what the main event for UFC 327 is going to be. I do believe we are getting a light heavyweight title fight at the top of the card. Question is, will it be for the vacant belt, or will Alex Pereira once again defend his UFC 205 gold? We shall find out. I will give you a prediction. I will also break down what I think the entire main card is going to end up being for this card. But before we get into the video, guys, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, do all that fun shit. I'd very much appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, let's get into the full video here then, guys. Of course, UFC 327 is going down in beautiful Miami, Florida on April 11th, I do believe, at some fucking arena. I don't know what arena that is exactly, but it's going down there. The UFC seems to be going back to Miami once a year, typically, right? I think they all been in April, actually, since, God, when did they start doing this? 299, I think, was the first one where they started doing this. So they've been going to Miami once a year. Of course, we are in the era of UFC only going to cities that are paying them to go there, which is just fucking horrible for the sport, I think. I mean, they really need to start going back to these smaller cities, but they just keep going in the same places over and over again ever since COVID. It's fucking terrible, but whatever. We move on. Like I said, going down to beautiful Miami, Florida, April 11th for the main event of UFC 327. I wanted to say first, actually, made a mistake there. Who cares? We'll move on. That there are already a few fights announced for UFC 327. One of them being Kevin Holland versus Randy Brown. Now, I guess I should say at the top here, the fights that are announced for UFC 327, I am not including on my predictions for what's going to be on the main card of UFC 327. And that's just wishful thinking on my part. I totally understand that. Chances are 2 or 3 of these fights, and they're really good fights, actually. So the chances are 2 or 3 of these fights are going to be on the main card of UFC 327. One of which being Kevin Holland versus Randy Brown, which I could see being on the prelims, honestly. Just given the state of both Kevin Holland and Randy Brown's careers, where they're at in the moment in their fighting careers. But nonetheless, I could see a world where this fight actually ends up opening the main card, or they just throw it somewhere on the main card. It is a fantastic fight. I very much like it. Also on this card already is Azamat Murzakanov versus Paulo Costa. Paulo Costa moving up to 205 for, I believe, the second time in his UFC career. I think that Marvin Vettori fight was back in the day. It was back in the day. It was like 5 years ago. Shit, man, I'm getting old. Anyways, I think that Marvin Vettori fight was at 205. So technically, Paulo Costa has already fought at 205, but he's going to be trying to crack into the rankings at the UFC light heavyweight division against Azamat Murzakanov. I could easily see that fight also being on the main card of UFC 327 as well. Also on the card already is Dominic Reyes versus Johnny Walker. Yeah, sure shit. This fight will probably be on the main card. This is a fantastic fight. What a goofy looking fight this is going to be. You just know one of these guys is going to get knocked out in the goofiest way possible. But nonetheless, I'm for the sake of this video, I'm predicting that all these fights are going to be on the prelims, and that we're going to end up getting a banger UFC 327. Moving on to what I think will be the main event of UFC 327 then. 1, Yuri Prochazka, who is the number 2 ranked light heavyweight in the world, versus the number 3 ranked light heavyweight in the world, Carlos Ulberg. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I do think Alex Pereira will be vacating his title and moving up to the heavyweight division, and we are going to be getting Yuri Prochazka versus Carlos Ulberg for the main event on UFC 327 for the vacant UFC light heavyweight championship of the world. Alex Pereira, of course, currently your UFC light heavyweight champion. Won the belt back against Magomed Ankalaev in fantastic fashion in October of 2025. Was actually my card of the year last year. If you guys happen to check out that video, I do think he's going to move up. Now the question is, who is Alex Pereira going to fight? I'll probably make a video on this in the future somewhere. I think we're leaning towards Alex Pereira versus Cyril Gane for the interim title of at heavyweight. I think they're going to end up making an interim title here. I think Tom Aspinall is going to be out a lot longer than the UFC thought, probably a lot longer than Tom thought, probably a lot longer than all the fans thought as well. So I think that we will be getting an interim title fight between Alex Pereira versus Cyril Gane at some point this year. I don't know if they'll throw that on the White House card or if they'll just throw it on some random pay-per-view. You probably don't throw that on the White House card, if I'm being honest. Brazilian guy versus a French guy. doesn't make a lot of sense to me to have it on the White House card, especially when it's for an interim bout. Because, like I was saying about Tom Aspinall, due to his eye injury and the multiple surgeries he's having, I think Tom Aspinall is probably going to be out to the end of the year. That also leaves John Jones kind of up in the air a little bit. Of course, if the UFC wanted to, they could just make Alex Pereira versus John Jones to headline that White House card. I mean, I think everyone would kind of be happy with that. It sounds like John Jones is up for it, although it does sound like, I don't know, there was that leaked video a couple weeks back where John Jones was talking about arthritis in his hip or some shit. And I don't know, maybe that just stops John Jones' fighting career altogether. Maybe John Jones actually is retired and he's never fighting again. Who knows? But I don't think we're heading in the direction of Alex Pereira versus John Jones on the White House card. I do think we're heading in the direction of Alex Pereira versus Ciryl Gane for the interim belt. Back to the Yuri Prochazka versus Carlos Alberg fight. Yuri Prochazka was coming off that fantastic Fight of the Year contender fight against Khalil Roundtree. Yuri Prochazka had 2 Fight of the Year contenders last year, one against Khalil Roundtree, one against Jamal Hill. He won both in fantastic fashion, of course, as Yuri always does. One of the most entertaining fighters in the sport, if not the most entertaining fighter in the sport right now, is Yuri Prochazka. So I don't think anyone would be mad at all at Yuri Prochazka getting a title shot here. He's loved and adored by all MMA fans, so I don't think there's too much to complain about here, especially considering that in this scenario, Alex Pereira would be moving up to the heavyweight division. And then Carlos Alberg, of course, coming off that knockout win over Dominic Reyes, thus earning him what I think should be the next title shot in the division. Even if Alex Pereira does stay, let's say Alex Pereira decides to defend his 205 belt once again, I do think Carlos Alberg should be the one getting the title shot. Mainly just because he's already beaten Yuri Prochazka twice now, and Carlos Alberg has definitely earned it on an 8-fight win streak in the UFC. Actually, I believe it's a 9-fight win streak. Has wins over guys like Jan Blachowicz, Dominic Reyes, like we just mentioned, Lonzo Meadowfield, Volkan Ozdemir. So he's definitely earned it. He's definitely cracked up enough wins here, 9 in a row. That's a lot, especially in the light heavyweight division, which isn't the deepest in the world. So I am completely fine with that. And I think it's actually a fantastic fight. I think that is something we will all look forward to. UFC been kind of rocky this year, especially with their numbered events thus far. 324 was really good, but that main event needed some extra juice, I think. I don't think Paddy versus Justin for the interim belt really did enough there to do that. I really wanted an undisputed title fight at the top of that card. And then, of course, we just got Volk versus Diego Lopez, too. That was a weird fight to make because no one wanted Diego Lopez to get a second title shot. And then now for the March pay-per-view, we're getting Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira for the BMF belt. Awesome fight, but not an undisputed title fight. So I think this will be kind of the first undisputed title fight of the year that we were all looking forward to. And in the co-main event, I am predicting Joshua Van versus Tatsuro Taira for the UFC Flyweight Championship. Another undisputed title fight that we should be getting on this card, and a fantastic fight at that. Now, this fight is heavily rumored to be on this card already. Crazy Kev over on Twitter, if you guys know him, leaks a lot of fights, breaks a lot of news. Go give his page a look if you haven't seen it before. But he has broken the news that Joshua Van versus Tatsuro Taira, according to him, is signed already for this card for UFC 327 on April 11th. And I think that's a fantastic fight. This is exactly how I wanted it to go, considering Alejandro Pantoja had that whole fight against Joshua Van, and of course he broke his elbow or whatever. I'm still not even entirely sure. Was it the elbow? Someone said the shoulder, someone said the elbow. Pretty sure it was the elbow. Had an injury on his elbow, gonna be out for a little while, so Joshua Van is gonna need to defend the title against someone. I made it so you guys have to look at this. You enjoy that disgusting image. So Joshua Van is now the champ, and I think Tatsuro Taira is the perfect guy to get the next title shot against Joshua Van. There's Kyoji Horiguchi out there. There's Manel Kape out there. Sounds like the UFC was trying to make Manel Kape versus Joshua Van for the March pay-per-view, but that didn't end up coming together, so they went on to Tatsuro Taira. According to Manel Kape, he said that they already promised the title shot to Tatsuro Taira. So I don't know exactly what happened there. But this is the fight I wanted. If you've seen my videos before, I wanted Josh Van versus Tatsuro Taira. I think I would rather see Kyoji Horiguchi and Manel Kape matched up for later in the year. have them two fight for the next title shot after. Of course, if Alejandro Pantoja was ready, I would prefer he get a title shot above anyone else because I just think he deserves it the most, considering what happened in his last fight and the amount of title defenses he's happened and just how great of a flyweight champion he was. He should be ahead of the line on everyone. But since he's not ready, Tatsuro Taira it is. Joshua Van, of course, you know him, you love him. Extremely entertaining fighter. Is now the champ at UFC Flyweight division. Had that fantastic fight with Brandon Royval last year, which won my fight of the year. Has been on a fucking tear, this kid. I mean, he's only 23 years old. Might be 24 now. Before that, knocked out Bruno Silva. Tatsuro Taira, of course, coming off that big win over Brandon Moreno from last year, in which he looked fantastic in that fight. Ended up stopping Brandon Moreno in the second round. I think it was just enough to earn him a title shot, in my opinion. Really, all three of those guys are kind of just neck and neck. I really wouldn't have mind any of the three of them getting a title shot, but going with Tatsuro Taira, I think that's very exciting. Two young guys. This will be the first undisputed UFC title fight with two people that were born in the 2000s fighting for the belt. So I think that's exciting. Get some new blood in there, and that should be a fantastic fight. And I will very much be looking forward to it. A fantastic co-main event and two title fights at the top of this card that should make everybody happy. Should make all MMA fans happy and give us a good card finally for this year. One with no controversy, one that we're not all complaining about. I just think these are two fantastic title fights to headline UFC 327. In your next fight on the main card, I'm predicting Drake du Plessis versus Brendan Allen. Drake du Plessis has been hinting that he has a fight already booked for April. I'm assuming they're going to put him on a pay-per-view. Unless this goes on a fight night, I could easily see this going on a fight night, being a 5-round main event somewhere. That would make a lot of sense to me. Drake du Plessis, of course, the former UFC middleweight champion, just lost his belt to Hamza Chimaev in what was a terribly boring fight, but nonetheless a very dominant fight for one Hamza Chimaev, in which DDP just got completely wrestle-fucked the entire time. Of course, before that, DDP defended his belt, I believe 2 times. One time against the rematch in Sean Strickland, the other time against Israel Adesanya, in which he submitted him. Miss watching DDP fight. Feels like we haven't gotten a good DDP scrap in a while here, so should be very entertaining. Brendan Allen coming off that big win over Reiner de Ritter from last year back in Canada, in which Reiner de Ritter was riding a hot streak. You could see a world where this fight is actually Reiner de Ritter restricts du Plessis, and the winner of that getting a title shot. But nonetheless, Reiner de Ritter kind of dropped the ball here against Brendan Allen. Was just too much too soon for him. Too many fights in a single year, and Brendan Allen was able to capitalize and put it on him and get him out of there within the 4th round. I would love to see a rematch of this fight, by the way, in the future. But nonetheless, Reiner de Ritter now scheduled to fight. Who's he fighting? I believe he's fighting Caio Borralho on the March pay-per-view. Anyways, Brendan Allen riding a 2-fight win streak now. Had that awesome fight against Marvin Vettori last year back in Louisiana, which was one of the best fights of the year, honestly. Go back and watch that fight. That was stuffed on the prelims of UFC 318 if you never ended up watching that one. But fantastic fight. Brendan Allen, very entertaining fighter. So him versus Drake du Plessis should be extremely entertaining. Where is Hamza Chimaev? Where the hell is this guy? How's it? He hasn't fought since August. Like, what the fuck are we doing, Hamza? Get going here. It's weird because Hamza Chimaev is about to have so many people lined up for a title shot in this middleweight division. Of course, Anthony Hernandez and Sean Strickland are fighting next weekend. You can see a world where the winner of that gets a title shot. Nasruddin Imavov already deserves a title shot. I don't know how that fight hasn't been booked with Hamza Chimaev and Nasruddin Imavov already. And then you can make an argument that the winner of this, if this does get made, Drake du Plessis versus Brendan Allen, deserves a title shot as well. So there's a queue forming here in middleweight, and Hamza needs to start getting more active. Your next fight that I think will be on the main card of UFC 327, Juliana Pena versus Norma Dumont. The UFC loves throwing women's fights on these pay-per-views. They have to do it. They have to do one on every pay-per-view at least. On the main card of every pay-per-view, this is where they showcase women's MMA, and they always stuff one women's fight on these cards at least. So this is the one I'm predicting. Of course, nothing going on in this women's UFC 135-pound division at all. Nothing really interesting except what's going on at the top. Of course, we are expecting Amanda Nunes versus Kayla Harrison to get rescheduled sometime later this year. Juliana Pena was coming off the loss to Kayla Harrison from last year. I believe that happened last June. in which she got absolutely dominated in that fight, but she's still your number one contender and still probably one of the most interesting girls at this 135-pound division. I mean, she has to be, right? Like who else is even there, man? This division is just a shell of what it used to be back in the Rousey era, back in when Nunes was starting to defend her title. Nunes really just cleared it out and really just it needs a new crop of contenders at this women's 135-pound division. And maybe Norma Dumont can do just that. Norma Dumont riding a 6-fight win streak right now, which is very impressive for that division. I mean, that's pretty much all the girls there. I don't know how many ranked girls it was. It's probably fucking 6 ranked girls, honestly, with how shallow the division is. Coming off of that split decision win over Caitlin Vieira. And like I said, riding a 6-fight win streak, has looked good doing it and is really the next in line for a title shot here. But it doesn't seem like she's getting that anytime soon. Who knows when Amanda Nunes versus Kayla Harrison is actually going to be rescheduled for after Kayla Harrison's neck surgery. So I think this is a great fight to make in the meantime. And Juliana Pena, if she wants to get her name back in title shot conversation, she's going to have to fight again. She's going to have to fight someone. So why not Norma Dumont? I think that's the perfect fight for her. Your last fight on the main card of UFC 327, I think, is going to be Aljamain Sterling versus Yusuf Zalal. Number 5 ranked at this featherweight division, Aljamain Sterling versus number 8 ranked Yusuf Zalal. Aljamain Sterling, of course, your former UFC 135-pound champ, has been at featherweight for a little while now, coming off that win over Brian Ortega from last August. And when she looked good in that fight, I don't know if Sterling looked good or Ortega just looked really bad. He had an awful weight cut for that fight. If you guys remember, he had to go to the hospital like 30 minutes before he was supposed to weigh in or whatever, and the fight still went through. Of course, Aljamain Sterling, I believe he's 2-1 now at this UFC featherweight division. Only lost to Mozart Evlov, who is fighting Laurent Murphy. And I think this is a good fight for Aljo because you really have to be particular with who you match Aljamain Sterling up with. You need someone that can kind of match him in the grappling department to make it an entertaining fight. Like the Calvin Kattar fight's actually a perfect example. Calvin Kattar, not a very high level grappler, at least not at the elite level of UFC fighters, like that kind of high level. I'm sure he's a great grappler, but you know what I mean. Like when he's fighting the elite of the elite grapplers in the UFC, he is not at that level clearly in the grappling department, and so it kind of ends up being a boring fight when you match Aljamain Sterling up with guys like that. Yusuf Zalal is a great grappler, has awesome submission game in his own right, is also really good stand up as well. Very well rounded is Yusuf Zalal. Yusuf Zalal riding a 5-fight win streak since his return to the UFC. If you guys remember, he got cut a little while back after fighting a fucking murderer's row. If you like, go look at his losses from before he got cut from the UFC. It's a murderer's row. I believe Ilya Taporia is in there, and a couple other really good guys. But nonetheless, since his comeback, his latest win is a win over Josh Emmett, in which he submitted him in the first round. Before that, he has that decision win over Calvin Kattar. Before that, he submitted Jack Shore, landed this awesome knee too, by the way. And yeah, I just think this would be a very entertaining fight. I think it's a good fight for Aljamain Sterling to get his name in this title shot mix. Same thing for Yusuf Zalal. If you can get past Aljamain Sterling, he'll be right there, no more than 1 or 2 away from a title shot for the winner of this fight. And I think it's a fantastic fight to make. Aljamain Sterling sounding like he's ready to go based off interviews I've seen with him recently as well. So I think it's the fight to make. I think if you match Aljo up with guys like Yair, guys like Josh Emmett, those type of guys, I think it kind of ends up being more of a boring fight. And I think Yusuf Zalal will bring the best out of Aljamain Sterling. So make this fight, sign this fight. I don't even care if it ends up going on this card. I just think this is the fight to make at the featherweight division. Here goes a look at the entire main card that I'm predicting for UFC 327. Like I was saying, in the main event, Yuri Prohaska versus Carlos Ulberg. Co-main event, Joshua Ram versus Tetsuya Taira. Rest of the main card, Drake Duplessis, Brendan Allen, Juliana Pena, Norma Dumont, and Aljamain Sterling versus Yusuf Zalal. Of course, guys, this is just wishful thinking. There's no way that the UFC is going to actually make this card because it would be too damn good, especially when you take a look at the prelims. Now, all these fights are already confirmed to be on UFC 327. Cub Swanson, Nate Landwehr is a banger. Kyle Dawkins versus Vicente Luque is a fight that is real and has already made Vicente Luque moving up to the middleweight division and fighting the heavy hitter Kyle Dawkins. That is a terrible idea at this stage of Vicente Luque's career. Don't know what he's thinking, but and more power to him. Of course, we already talked about the top 3 fights. Tatiana Suarez versus Lupi Gorditas. also already scheduled for this card. So, like I was saying, no chance all of these fights are going to be on the prelims, but let me dream, damn it. Let me have a good time. Let me walk in a little fantasy world here and imagine that the UFC put on banger cards like this. We are kind of due for like a really good card though this year. I feel like we're due for one. You can't hold all the fights for the White House card. I mean, you got to start spreading the field a little bit if you're UFC, especially with the rumor going around now. There's only gonna be 6 or 7 fights on that White House card in total. You only got so many fighters, so you got to spread the field a little bit. Let's get some big fights going. Let's get some good cards going in this Paramount era because we kind of need them right now. MMA is kind of feeling a little down at the moment, at least the way the fan base is talking. So, nonetheless, guys, that will do it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and all that fun shit. I appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.